Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rhonda Hooper, and I'm Vice Chair of the Trust, and I'd like to please call the meeting to order. So we're calling the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda, I'd like to approve the minutes of August 7th, Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust meeting. Actually, it's up. September 4th. September 4th meeting, sorry. Have a motion? Second? All in favor, please please indicate with your light. Okay. All right, thank you. Motion carries. Sorry, I'm rusty. I do this twice a year. Okay. Now we're ready for item number 3, ratifying the OSIP claims. You have that in your handouts. Are there any questions or follow-up questions relative to the claims?
Move approval.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate on your vote. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving into items 4 for individual consideration. Item A is approval of a lease agreement between the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust and American Country Pallet, retroactive to September 1st, 2012 through August 31st, 2013 for the leasing of property located at 101 Southwest 6th. And that is economic development generated. Any comments, Kathy?
This is a piece of property that the Economic Development Trust purchased in the Coeur d'Alene area several years ago, and we leased the facilities there back to the original owner so that they can continue to operate their business until we need this piece of property for a redevelopment project.
Anyone have any questions of Kathy? Chair would entertain a motion. Okay. Any further questions? Please cast your ballot. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item B, resolution waiving the formal consultant selection process and approving an agreement for professional services with the Center for Economic Development Law to provide legal services in connection with economic development and redevelopment activities retroactive to July 1st, 2012, as it relates to TIF monies.
Question?
Frank?
Does the firm break down its invoice? For example, I guess Dan Batchelor is the senior partner, or do they just give you one number like maybe many?
They actually give me tasks.
Give you one number.
They actually give me tasks, number of hours, and who the attorney is on the billing that I get from them.
The bill them specifically?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional questions of Brent?
I do. Madam Chairwoman, sorry to arrive late and with a question right away. But I too had a few questions associated with this item. Would appreciate the insight, Brent. First and foremost, of what I'm familiar with this firm, they're exceptional, and I've always known that to be them in an area of expertise. But more in the abstract, I'm curious about this type of arrangement with this type of a waiver, particularly the duration of it. I'm not sure that they're the only people in the state that do it, but they're certainly the ones that do it very well. If you could speak to that issue, I'd appreciate hearing it.
Yes, sir. When we created TIF District number 4, the Center for Economic Development Law was utilized to help us create that because they are they have a lot of experience in developing TIF districts in Oklahoma City, and they've been helping us with the administration of that as it relates to some key developments related to that. When we moved TIF District number 4 and 5 under the purview of this trust, there were still some things that needed to be done related to that trust or related to TIF number 4, and in an effort to pay the Center for Economic Development Law, after just consulting with our procurement division, they advised that this was the best approach to handle that. Regarding the length of this, typically when we do professional services contracts like this at the city, the standard is to do a 5-year contract. And typically at that time, you will either go through a process or an RFP type process, or you'll go back and do exactly what we're doing here today. The city's policy when it comes to professional services isn't necessarily one where they actually do an RFP process. And I know Kathy can probably elaborate on that even more, but when it comes to, again, for professional services, there's typically not a formal process. Is that correct?
A formal process is not required by law, but the city has a policy that they use, and many of the trusts try to follow that policy as closely as possible. In many cases, the attorneys are exempted from that policy. So there are several different types of when the city needs to retain lawyers that we won't use a process at all. The one thing I'll say about this particular case, though, is that with TIF 4 and 5, we also created an urban renewal area. And the Center for Economic Development Law is the general counsel for the Urban Renewal Authority. So, again, they have this kind of specialized level of expertise about tax increment financing and the urban renewal law. That is why they were originally utilized to create the urban renewal area, the urban renewal plan, and then later the project plan and the TIF documents that were taken to City Council.
Okay, thank you. I very much appreciate the insight. Mr. Williams was kind enough to share some insight earlier when I called and asked, but I definitely recognize the distinction of a Title 60 trust and some of the purchasing requirements that may or may not apply to it. I guess just as a matter of optics and transparency, I always think it's better, regardless of the legal status of a public entity, that it go to the market occasionally, perhaps more often than 5 years, when you feel the need, whether it's a fund manager or a CPA service, engineers on call, or whether it happens to be lawyers.
Okay.
I recognize the uniqueness of their skill set for sure. It looks like the hourly rate is even discounted from what I know their level of expertise to be. Again, just in the abstract, I wanted to ask those questions and to perhaps suggest that going forward that we look more often than every 5 years.
Okay.
But thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Jim. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item C on the agenda. Amendment number 4 and change order number 4, projects PC 0381, WC 0721, SC 0842, project 180 Streetscape, package number 5, encompassing 5 locations, a net increase of $325,670.64. And that would be with TIF, General Obligations Bond, and Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. Are there any questions relative to item C? Yes, Frank.
How much do we hold back when the contractor comes in with, I guess, a monthly partial payment? Assume we hold some percent back?
Mike will address that.
Typically, when we budget a project, we will budget a 10% contingency. On an amendment, there is not a legal cap on the amendment. On a change order over $1 million, there's a legal cap of 10%. So collectively, our project manager tracks both the amendment and change order against his 10% contingency to make sure that the project does not go over the total budget amount, but that it also does not exceed the change order amount allowed by law.
Do we, I assume the contractors submit monthly partial payment requests?
They do.
So my question is, how much of that partial payment, we don't pay 100%, I assume?
Correct. Retainage is 5%.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mike? Chair would entertain a motion. Okay, I have a motion. Second. All in favor, please cast your ballot. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item D, amendment number 1 to contract for engineering services, project PC 0388 for transportation engineer for downtown streetscape, generally bounded by Northwest 6th Street, Lee Avenue, E.K. Gaylord Boulevard, and Southwest 2nd Street, requesting a fee increase of $11,000 payable through TIF. Any questions relative to item D? Entertain a motion?
Move it.
Second? Over here, do I hear a second? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Larry, I did not hear your second. Oh, okay, I apologize. Well, it morphed into a second, how's that? Okay, please cast your ballot. Chair can't hear today. Okay. All right, motion carries. Item E, change order number 2 and amendment number 1, project MP 0419, project 180 Bicentennial Park, City Hall lawn landscape renovation, and Civic Park Design Sculpture Garden, Couch Drive and Walker Avenue, increase of $275,693 with TIF and general obligation bonds. Any question relative to item E?
Just a curiosity question. Apparently, this is required because of relocation of the certain sculpture pieces. I assume that would have been in the original scope.
Mike, would you like to address that?
Yes, sir. When the project started through the Downtown Design Review Committee process, it identified that all of the existing historical markers and art pieces that were in Bicentennial Park would actually leave the park. And in going through that DDRC process, there was concern for that, and there was a desire expressed to move the Bicentennial Monument back into the park. So at that point, the project had been advertised for bid, so we utilized the amendment and change order process to reestablish the Bicentennial Monument back into the park. And that's actually the work that you see going on today there along the south edge.
Mike, as a follow-up, then this Stanley Draper statue and Earth Meets the Sky were added to that coming back with the Bicentennial Monument?
It was all tied into the DDRC review. Originally, the plan was for Earth Meets Sky to install in Bicentennial Park. And as part of that process, it was determined that it would relocate over into City Hall. To complicate matters a little bit further, we bid both Bicentennial Park and City Hall at the same time. We chose not to award City Hall, so that kind of left Earth Meets Sky and Stanley Draper stranded with nowhere to go. So again, we utilized the change order process to establish those two pieces over on the City Hall lawn.
So this will ensure them they have a home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for your explanation, Mike. Any chair would entertain a motion?
So move.
It's hard up here. Okay, guys? You have to beg. Okay. All in favor, please say, please notify. I can't say that either. Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item F, change order number 3 and amendment number 3, project PC 0380, WC 0677, and SC 0802, project 180 Streetscape, West Reno Avenue from Dewey Avenue to E.K. Gaylord Boulevard and North Robinson Avenue, from West Reno Avenue to West Sheridan Avenue, a decrease of $568,073.31. Partial acceptance of the project and placing maintenance bond into effect, TIF and general obligation bonds. Any questions on item number 5, where we do realize a decrease of a little over $500,000? That didn't take long. Thank you very much. All right. If there are any other comments, let's cast your vote. A celebratory acceptance. Thank you very much. Yes, make up for your previous behavior. Okay, just kidding. Item G, change order number 2, project MB 01053, City Center East Garage Pedestrian Corridor, 100 North Harvey Avenue, an increase of $28,679 through TIF dollars. Any further explanation on the enhancements to the corridor?
Can you shed some light into the additions, the security system, electrical revision?
Yes, sir. We refer to this as the Interior Pedestrian Corridor Project, and it's on the 3rd floor of the East City Center parking garage. And essentially, it provides a link from the new Devon facility into Oklahoma Tower. At the time that the plans were developed, there were just a couple of more operational type issues that we failed to address. The larger items that make up this change order would be installing conduit that would allow for the future installation of a security system for that corridor, and then also motion-activated lights for the corridor to be more energy efficient. And then the last thing is actually code required, but it's electric for coiling doors for the fire system at the two ends. So it was simply oversight in developing the plans that we had not coordinated well enough with the users at the two ends of the corridor to establish what all the needs might be.
Thank you.
Any additional questions of Mike? Chair would entertain. All right. Okay. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you for keeping due diligence, Mike. Appreciate it. Item H, joint resolution approving the allocation of general obligation limited tax bond proceeds and/or investment proceeds in amount of $480,000 for the Energex LLC Memorandum of Understanding and Agreement payable through Gold bonds or Gold. Kathy, you have.
This resolution approves the allocation of $480,000 in general obligation limited tax bonds for the agreement that is the next item on your agenda. Today we have with us two representatives from Energex that have a brief presentation about their move to downtown Oklahoma City. This item is a part of the parking incentive program that we have that's a part of the strategic investment program. Energex moved its operations to downtown Oklahoma City and plans to expand its workforce. They're a very welcome addition to downtown Oklahoma City, and we've enjoyed working with them. And with that, I'll introduce Brent and Tom to make some comments.
Thank you very much. My name is Tom Levesey. I'm the Chief Accounting Officer at Energex, and I'm joined in chambers today by Brent Hagee, who is our managing attorney and has been working on this memorandum of understanding. I'd like to take a few minutes to kind of present who Energex is and some of our recent activities and growth that's been taking place. So with that, if we can move to the next slide. Energex is a integrated natural gas midstream company, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the midstream, I think everybody is very familiar with the shale gas boom that everyone is talking about right now that's taking place across the United States and particularly here in Oklahoma. We have obviously got some, tier one producers with Chesapeake and Devon and Sandridge and Continental here in Oklahoma City. Well, when they produce the gas, we have to get that gas to the end users in a usable state. And that's really where the midstream comes in, and that's what Energex does. We gather the gas at the wellhead. We process off the liquids that are produced with it. We transport that, and at times we do store that for our customers. It takes a significant amount of capital to do that, and we have over 8,000 miles of gas pipeline located mostly in Oklahoma and into the Texas Panhandle. We have 9 gas processing plants that process a little over a day, or a billion cubic feet a day of natural gas. We also have 2 storage fields located in southeastern Oklahoma where we can store up to 24 BCF of natural gas for later use in the marketplace. To do that, obviously, it does take a lot of capital. This next slide just gives you an idea of the capital investment that we have made. And you'll see, obviously in 2011 and 2012, over $1 billion worth of capital investment that it takes to provide those services to those large E&P customers that we mentioned earlier. This is just a representation of our system. The darker lines represent the intrastate gas transportation system, the green lines, which may not be as visible. That's the gathering assets that we have, and then the dots indicate where we have located gas processing plants. Moving on, for those of you who may be familiar, we are a subsidiary of OGE Energy Corp., which has been a long-time corporate citizen of Oklahoma City. We were formed in 1986 when OGE acquired the assets of Mustang Fuel. Since that time, we've been located at Central Park, basically I-44 and Lincoln Boulevard. Referring back to the map that you saw earlier, in 1999, we bought a large part of that system from TransOak, which was located in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we relocated a significant amount of jobs down here and have continued to operate out of Oklahoma City. Looking forward, in 2011, we were facing the expiration of our lease agreement. And again, we were out at I-44 and Lincoln Boulevard, which is very centrally located, very easy for our members to access that location. We had parking immediately outside the building. I will tell you that parking was probably the number one concern our members had when we were considering the relocation. Everybody evaluates it, what's it mean to me, and so they were concerned about, will we have parking that is close to the office? How will we pay for parking? Because, again, that was going to impact, their individual pocketbooks if they had to pay for parking, but the company stood up and said that we would provide that to keep our members whole. Obviously, one of the major decisions that we had was the cost of parking. When you bring, 350 folks down, that's a significant investment that we had to make. And one of the major considerations is the investment that the city and the trust is making in some of these economic incentives. So with that, we did make the decision to move down to downtown Oklahoma City because we felt that would be strategic to us in many ways because, revitalized downtown Oklahoma City, everybody's seeing the growth going on, everybody's seeing the activity, and we felt that that would be very important for us to be part of that and continue to make our investment here with our headquarters. If you'll turn to the next slide. I apologize on this photo. We tried to capture it. Those of you who may not have seen it yet, 3 weeks ago we put the Energix logo up on top of Leadership Square. It's got a good view from 235 and as well as the west side of the city. And that's just part of the $14 million investment that we made to remodel and equip the 6 floors in Leadership Square. I believe that location was previously occupied by Tronox, but that is where we are now located, and we completed the move in the first quarter of this year. Members, the feedback and excitement about being in downtown, we've received nothing but positive feedback. And our members are taking part in the activities that downtown Oklahoma City is offering, and we're enjoying our time here thus far. And where we ended up obtaining parking is in the Santa Fe parking garage over on EK Gaylord, and it's not too bad of a walk, and we're kind of enjoying it right now because we've had very good weather. So. Moving forward today, we have 359 employees that are housed in Leadership Square. And these are high-quality jobs. These are engineers, project managers, accountants. We have financial analysts. Our legal team is here. So every type of position that you would expect, mostly professional positions that you would expect to have to operate a company of this size, are employed there at Leadership Square. We are currently, as we sit here today, seeking to add 15 additional positions that are currently open. And as we're going into our 2013 budget cycle, we are anticipating continued growth of those positions, and that provided for it in the footprint and office space at Leadership Square because we do anticipate the need to continue to grow. And with that, I appreciate the opportunity to come up here before you today and would respectfully request approval of the Memorandum of Understanding and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Frank?
Could you give a kind of a brief summary on the type of skilled people that you have
On the type of skilled people that we have?
in the office?
In the office. Obviously, as Chief Accounting Officer, I'm going to say we have some very highly skilled accountants. That's near and dear to my heart. We also have project managers and engineers. If you look at that asset, when you build a gas plant, it takes quite a bit of engineering to construct that, design it, operate it. So, we have considerable amount of chemical engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and, project management folks who, these investments range up to $150, $60 million. So considerable amount of investment that we're making, but we need people to design and build those. Beyond that, we have a legal group. We have commodity traders who sell the natural gas and natural gas liquids. So you're talking, high-quality professional folks who are, actively engaged in the energy sector here in Oklahoma City.
The operational, say, the control of your daily flow, the hourly flow, you got a group that do that. Are they here too?
They are actually located on Leadership Square, in Leadership Square as well, our volume control group. One of the investments that we made years back was the ability to control our pipeline systems remotely, and we have what's called SCADA data that comes in, and that's all monitored from Leadership Square. Of course, God forbid something happened, we have backup locations that we may go to, but day in and day out, everything is operated on that map from Leadership Square.
Larry?
Kathy, a couple of questions. One, just what's going to happen to the area that they're leaving out there? What's the plans for it?
I think they sold that building. I don't know, but their old location at Central Park?
Yes, ma'am.
I think they sold that building.
Yeah, actually Chesapeake Energy bought that, and I believe that's where their midstream operations are now going to go.
So they move people back in there?
Yeah, and they've been remodeling that.
As I read this, what we're talking about, there were about 350 quality jobs out at the Central Park area before, and we're moving 350 down. And the 350 is the kind of the baseline that they've agreed to maintain. Should they fall below that, there would be the potential for some reimbursement to us for this. Is that correct?
I can't remember. We're both.
I can answer that question. That is correct. That's how the agreement is set up. Yes,
But currently, you're at 359.
that's correct. With plans to...
With plans for 15 more that you were recruiting actively here?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're swapping place locations primarily. This is really, we're not adding a whole lot of jobs like we did, for example, in the bowling relocation.
No, this program was designed to promote downtown Oklahoma City. It has a 20% job creation component to it, but it isn't necessarily the 50 minimum jobs like our other strategic investment program. The standard program, you have to create at least 50 jobs. So this program is a little bit different, or this part of our program is a little bit different.
It differs a little bit from the goal thrust of increasing the number of jobs in the Oklahoma City marketplace.
It still has an emphasis on increasing jobs, and in this program, they have to pay 20% above the MSA average wage. So they have to be much higher quality jobs than the other ones that we look at for some of our other investment programs.
If I could ask a few more questions to clarify. I thought I understood, but now I'm further confused, so I apologize for that in advance. Thank you, first of all, for your involvement in what I think is a great Oklahoma company. I appreciate, regardless of location, that you're here and growing and doing good things. Very much appreciate that. As I understood the program, they were eligible for relocation to downtown, and because the wages exceeded more than 20%, as you indicated, which clearly 100 over 42 is much more than 20%, that they're eligible for some of that programming. But as it relates to the parking reimbursement, is that the incentive we're talking about? Okay.
Yes.
And then that is subject to reimbursement from expenses that you will prove up quarterly or however often?
Correct. We have to provide a monthly statement with the total number of qualified employees that are located down here.
Okay.
And we'll submit that on a monthly basis.
I think I got somewhat confused because I understood the eligibility to be kind of a 3-year program, but within The MOU, it appears to be 13 quarters, and within another document I saw it described as 11, basically July 1st, 2012 to March of 2015, and then the MOU expires actually 2 quarters later. Can you help me clarify how that overplays into this program and your eligibility and the poll on the 480?
I'll defer to Mr. Hagee here.
I think that probably some of the confusion around the dates has come into play because we've been working on the agreement for a while. I think we had basically actually reached tentative agreement around this time last year before we actually moved down, but there were some changes that needed to be made, is my understanding, that have recently taken place, so it's probably errors on part of me and the lawyer for the city.
Okay, so regardless of the dates included within the MOU, I assume the program's eligibility and the program requirements will be how we would interpret, I guess, 3 years for reimbursement subject to. Okay.
That's correct, yes. That would be the maximum period.
And we kind of did provide for a little bit of flexibility that we can mutually agree to extend it if it's not used up by October of 2015.
Okay. And then I guess final question to build on Councilman McAtee's question. None of the eligibility for the program participation is subject to you growing jobs, right? I know the whereas clause fourth from the end within the MOU describes your intentions of adding 50 to 100, which would be near 20% requirement for job growth. But you're not required to do that to participate within this incentive, is that correct?
That's correct. We're required to maintain at least 350, but
Okay.
There's not a specific growth requirement.
Growth, okay. Thank you for the help.
Any additional questions? Chair would entertain.
Move approval.
Okay. All in favor, please cast your vote. Motion carries. Thank you, Tom and Brent. Appreciate your business in downtown Oklahoma City. We also have to vote on on item I, the memorandum of understanding and agreement as it relates to our prior business item. Entertain.
I'll move approval subject to the clarification of the date.
Move approval subject to the clarification of dates. You don't have your microphone on. Okay. All right, no problem. Okay. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Item J, resolution approving an agreement between Sandridge Realty LLC and the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust to allow Sandridge to construct Project 180 improvements in the public right-of-way in the vicinity of Robinson, Robert S. Kerr, Dean A. McGee, and Broadway Avenues in downtown Oklahoma City with TIF monies. Any questions relative to item J? Okay, Roth, approval, second by McAtee. Please cast your ballots. Motion carries. We have a very special new person we need to introduce, and Kathy, would you be so kind to introduce?
Sure. With us today is Kurt Foreman, who is the new Vice President for Economic Development with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. I think it's maybe the beginning of his 3rd week on the job. So Kurt, if you want to come up and say a few things. And Kurt comes from Louisiana to Oklahoma, and we're glad to have him with us.
Well, thank you very much. I'm learning to deal with a change in allergy season, so my voice is a little different than you'll hear me at other meetings. But already enjoying it very much being here, and look forward to being in service with you and for you in the coming months and years. I have a 20-year career in economic development, most recently in northern Louisiana, but before that in Pennsylvania and a few other places. But as I tell people otherwise, I got here as soon as I knew what I was missing out on. And so I look forward to working with you. My family's still in Louisiana until we sell our house, but fortunately the housing market there is almost as good as here, so that shouldn't be very long. So we're looking forward to that. But we have a great team in place. I know we have a great relationship with you all and the staff, and I look forward to supporting you and making good things happen on behalf of the city. So thank you for what you do.
Welcome very much, Kurt. We appreciate it. Any Shreveport boy is welcome in Oklahoma City. Okay. No, he started in Pennsylvania. Okay, but you'll have to appreciate different cuisine here. Okay. Any comments from staff, trustees, or citizens?
I have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you all this morning. I'm going to pass these around. I don't think I've got enough there. A couple of weeks ago at a city council meeting, I did a presentation about kind of what the Alliance does and the programs that we manage, and a couple of questions came up about what's the economic impact that's been generated from both some of the tax increment projects that we've done and from the strategic investment program. So Brent worked on this spreadsheet, and if you have questions about the details of the calculations, he'll probably have to answer them. But on the first page is the strategic investment program summary, and what we did is we calculated the economic impact of the projects that we've worked on so far. We've created 3,751 jobs at the estimated payroll that they provided to us, and we just took it as a snapshot in time, assuming that all of these jobs were created, and granted, we recognize that not all of them have been created yet. And then calculated the annual economic impact from those projects that we've worked on, and it's over $1 billion. And that's the 1 year economic impact from what we've been able to do with our program. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Again, this is both the direct and indirect impacts. You know, some of them are directly from the employers and that we've worked with, but then there are a multiplier effect that happens throughout the economy, and really the way we looked at this was for Oklahoma County only. So it's a pretty narrow approach to calculating economic impact, and it just gives us an idea of the magnitude of the impact of what we're doing. It's more about the big picture than maybe the specific details of the numbers. On the second page are the projects that Urban Renewal is working on or that have tax increment financing involved in them. And these are the ones that are under construction or about to be under construction. They are not the ones that we've already completed. So from this you can see that they have a total construction impact of over $250 million in the local economy and create a little bit over 2,000 jobs. So I think really good news about how much these kinds of programs help the economy even beyond the real estate investment and the taxes that they generate. They have a real impact on generating wealth and income in the economy and creating jobs for people. So,
excellent snapshot. Please define the consumer on the far right. Sorry. Brent?
We're kind of trying to figure that out. We think that's a part of that multiplier effect. It's the you get $1 and you spend it at Dillard's, and then that employee spends it somewhere else. It's the pass along. It's the pass along of the economic impact.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So what's the multiplier again? Could you maybe comment a little bit more on the multiplier, how you calculate it?
Well, we utilize it's called an RPAS model, and it's developed by a company out of Arizona. To be consistent, we use the same one. And one thing that the multiplier, the answer is it depends what industry it's in. And this is one thing I was just mentioning to Mike and Kurt is when you look at this, you really see the difference between a service job and a manufacturing job. So now Mr. McAtee will be happy to hear. The manufacturing ones have significantly larger multipliers, and this was really reflected here. But again, it depends on the industry type, and various factors.
For example, if you look at Affinia, which is creating 154 jobs and an estimated payroll of $6.5 million, their economic impact is almost $94 million. But if you look at Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's that's about as close as we get on the service thing. 104 jobs, 5.1 million in payroll, the economic impact is only $13 million.
Yes.
So the significant different, I mean, the difference is extremely important to us as we look at manufacturing and other industries, so.
Excuse me. You need me to repeat that?
Yes, I believe that, and I can dig into the details of that. I'd have to actually get with the chamber, and we could talk to the people who developed that, but there are significant, there are various multipliers depending, again, on what the part of the economy that they're in.
So that model, used by quite a number of entities, I assume, basically uses that same index of multipliers in for the various industries.
So
Yes,
in
sir.
essence, we're doing apples to apples.
Yes. And that's one thing I tried to do here on this one. I wanted to just take one snapshot, because when we bring projects to you and says X number project has an economic impact, we more than likely, the company will give us a ramp-up schedule, and so we will put the ramp-up in the model over a 5 to 7 year time frame, and it will be a little bit differently because of the ramp-up and the way the changes in salary. So this is just a snapshot of, they created all the jobs at that salary and that investment, here's what the economic impact would be.
And then the only other thing I have, are there any other questions about that or comments or before we?
Yeah, sorry, a question on the construction impact. Is there a suggested duration of employment? Obviously, those are temporary jobs.
They are temporary jobs, yeah. It's just for the duration of the construction. So they probably assume 18 months or so for most of these projects.
And that assumption is spread across each of the projects? The same 18 months?
I don't know if it's 18 months for every project. It may be tied to the amount, to the dollar of the construction cost, that they have some kind of duration applied to that. So the bigger the project, the longer it takes to build it. But the only other thing I had is that we've gotten some information about the outlet mall has been open for 1 year. And we had targeted sales tax revenues when we put together the incentive package for the outlet mall of $105 million a year, and their sales at the outlet mall were $133.5 million. So their sales are about 27% above what we anticipated, and they seem to be doing very well. I was out there Sunday, so helping the number.
Excellent. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate the updates. Appreciate the snapshot. This is very helpful. Any additional questions, thoughts, comments? Okay, I feel like this meeting is now adjourned. Y'all are in agreement. Thanks.